Hey guys, it's Merlini, bringing you another video. It's been a while, but this time it's a big update, 6.81 update, also known as the spring cleaning update. This was announced yesterday, and I'm here to bring you the significant parts of it, trying to keep it relatively short, 10 to 15 minutes long, hit the most important parts about this update. So it's unsure as to when the patch is actually going to hit, but it should be within the next couple of days. So there are two main parts to it: game polishing and balance changes, and this one is far more polishing than we see in a lot of the updates. So first and foremost, a link to the patch notes if you want to check them out yourself or follow along. It is located at www.dota2.com/spring cleaning. There's a nice piece of artwork too. Viz on the left, Bane on the right, with Mirana in the middle. So there's a ton of quality of life changes that just makes your experience in Dota a lot more enjoyable. You can Alt plus left click on items. It alerts your team, not alters your team, it alerts your team that the item is ready on CD or needs mana, similar to you Alt left clicking on your skill or ultimate. Item purchase notifications now pop up. If you spectate games a lot, you'll notice that casters and spectators see that. So now you'll see that in game. Added a different screen effect while dead. Some people complained that it was just a lot of unnecessary information. I don't need to see who killed me and how I died for 100 seconds or however long you're dead, and it obscured your vision a lot. So not exactly sure what the screen effect is while dead, but hopefully it alleviates some of those issues. There's a new design for settings interface, makes it look a lot better and a little bit more condensed, I say. There's ping to servers that now show in the selection screen, so you can choose which one more aptly suits you, especially if one server is having issues. There is control key override for ward sharing. So ward sharing was something that everyone really liked in 6.80, but unfortunately there were a lot of wards that just chilled in the fountain as you try to give it to your teammate, accidentally misclick, and you now have vision in your fountain. Woohoo! It's also really nice for team fights where you're trying to drop a sentry and you actually give it to your teammate and it goes on cooldown. You're like, crap, where did the hero go? You drop a sentry and then it's too late. You miss a hero kill because of it. So it's actually pretty significant. Also, Earthshaker can no longer redirect, especially important for mid players and off lane players, because Radiant Ancients, as well as Radiant's Ancients for Radiant mid lane and Dire Ancients for Dire off lane were the main two, so you no longer have to worry about that. It's also for stalling games too, because ES would creep block off the cliff up to the T3, and then creeps would run around to a different lane and there would go your push. So now they just stand there when fissured instead of repathing around. Something that's been a hot point for a pretty long time. And there's a ton of bug fixes. When a player control unit dies, you'll no longer deselect and return control to the hero. This has actually happened to me a fair amount, and not only do I get control of my hero, and that's not really what I want, it also makes me cancel TPs. Like, let's say I'm lone druid and I'm trying to micro my bear so it doesn't die. It dies while I'm TPing out, and then I cancel my TP because I'm trying to micro my bear. That's actually happened to me a fair amount, so this one's a pretty significant bug fix. Spectating games should no longer show a team kill score of 0. I see that way more often than I should. Various sound elements from spells ignoring Fog of War, fairly significant for some of the ones that you may use on Roshan. And you can no longer see trees being destroyed in Fog of War too. That's not that big of a deal because not often are people staring into the Fog of War, but if you are very vigilant about it, you can see like when a bat rider is like jungling or someone's cutting past through the trees, and it's a pretty significant one. You shouldn't be able to see anything in Fog of War, so I like all these bug fixes. Of course, there are a ton of bug fixes and quality of life changes that are not listed here. You can check out the patch notes. I'm not going to go through each of them specifically, but these are the ones that I deemed far more important than the others. And on the other side, we have balance changes, a ton of balance changes, and the Big Five nerf. The Big Five, it's not really consensus who the Big Five are, but the Big Five in competitive to me, after casting a lot, is Bat Rider, Ember Spirit, Invoker, Lycanthrope, and Naga Siren. You'll see at least 3 of these banned out in most games, often 4, and they weren't actually hit that hard though. Nothing like completely game breaking. Like I remember Bat Rider had like a vision nerf, he had like base damage nerf and all these other things, but it's just mana changed on Flaming Lasso, increased from 150 to 225. Ember Spirit does slightly less damage with Sleight of Fist, it's reduced by 33% the bonus damages. So it's actually not terribly significant, but it's still a damage nerf. Searing Chains duration rescaled to 1, 2, 2, 3, so it makes your skill choice a little bit more difficult, because often people would just get 3 points of Searing Chains because it was 3-second duration. So now you have to decide whether you want that 4th point. The damage is still the same though. And Invoker Quas Exort actually didn't get touched at all. I'm very surprised by that. Ghost Walk no longer slows magic. Ghost Slow no longer affects magic immune units. EMP delayed increased by 0.3 seconds, so 2.6 to 2.9. Not as easy to hit the Tornado EMP combo. So again, Quas Exort not hit at all. It was hit last patch though with Forge Spirits and whatnot. Lycanthrope, his ulti no longer provides bonus HP. It was 100, 200, 300 at levels 1, 2, and 3 respectively. Now, nothing. I think a very broken part about him, or at least what I consider broken, was his wolves. Though his wolves had regen, they're very fast, they destroy supports, they're invis, so it was amazingly good for scouting, and it's amazingly good for Roshan too. You don't actually have to have that many items to do Roshan now, because you can get your wolves to tank. Before, your wolves really couldn't tank. They would just be there for damage, and you would like micro them out and just mostly tank with your hero. But now you can tank with your wolves and just keep swapping them in and out, especially with Vlad's. So I still think the hero is still very powerful. Naga Siren, Riptide, AoE decreased from 350 to 320, no longer affects magic immune units, and Mirror Image Illusion damage dealt reduced by 10% at all levels. I think it's like 30, 35, 40, 45 to 20, 25, 30, 35. That hurts her early game a fair amount. Keep in mind though, a significant source of the damage from Naga Siren's illusions are from Radiance and from Riptide. So the right click is not terribly significant anyway, so just a lot of small nerfs here and there. Hopefully they won't be as popular as they are now, because it looks like the strategy and the play of nowadays has stabilized a little bit, and these 5 are to me the ones that needed the most work. So, and of course, if you play pubs a lot, Phoenix and Terrorblade not implemented yet in Captain's mode, but still wreaks havoc everywhere. Most players hate playing against them. I personally don't like playing AP because of these 2 heroes, as well as the big 5. So Phoenix, Icarus Dive, cast point extended from 0.01 to 0.2. Fire Spirit's damage nerfed slightly, and the health cost increased from 15 to 20%. So just a fair amount of nerfs all around. Terrorblade, very significant. Strength gain reduced from 1.9 to 1.4. So if you take that into actual numbers, at level 10 he'll have what, around 5 left strength, which is almost 100 less HP. I actually thought his HP was pretty low to begin with, and that just makes him much easier to kill, and much more difficult to get off good Sunder. So you kind of have to go treads and probably drums too, just to compensate for this. Also, his skill build's not as easy anymore too. Reflection duration rescaled from 5 seconds to 2.3, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. So no longer can you get just 1 point in it and just kind of crush people and just go the 1-4-1 or sorry, 1-1-4 into 1-4-1. So this makes it even more difficult to level them up and be very effective with them at all stages of the game. Although it is buffed at level 4 though, so you actually get half a second more, and it no longer persists through magic immunity that slow does, so that's pretty good too. So hopefully these 2 heroes would be picked a little bit less. Other nerfs, many other tier 1 picks were nerfed slightly. Ancient Apparition, 5% increase on attack speed during Chilling Touch or penalty, whatever. Centaur, Hoof Stomp mana cost 130 flat at all levels. Dazzle no longer has a mini stun on the Poison Touch. Doom, his Doom no longer is considered universal damage, which means it doesn't go through like Ember Spirits. Flame Guard, neither does it go through Pipe and other forms of magic absorption. Luna, I think her base agility nerfed by 4, something around there. Mirana, you get a little bit less vision with Sacred Arrow. Nyx Assassin, Impale cooldown increased from 11 to 13. And Visage, you no longer can get 1 value point in Grave Chill. It scales from 16, 14, 12, 10 for cooldown instead of just a flat 10 at all levels. So overall, a lot of the skill builds are... It will vary per game. Instead of Visage always being able to do 1-4-1 and Ember Spirit always being able to get 3 points in Searing Chains, it makes the early game a little bit more difficult and more decision making to be made for these heroes, which is pretty significant. So again, these are very slight nerfs, just slight numbers here and there. Just Ice Frog prodding these heroes and just saying, hey, these heroes are a little bit too strong. I want you to pick other ones, and I will keep nerfing them if they keep getting picked a lot. Kind of like Darkseer, and Darkseer is actually getting picked a lot, so I don't know if he'll be touched soon. Anyways, and for the tier 1 items, they've all been nerfed a little bit too. Necronomicon, Mjolnir, and Scythe of Vice. Necronomicon, a little bit less move speed for all of them at all levels. Or actually, I think only levels 2 and 3 they get less move speed, but it's 350 flat instead of scaling. And then they also get more experience. Mjolnir, slightly less damage, and they change how the damage is activated, like where it's centered around. Scythe of Vice, you actually get a little bit more move speed during the chicken form. Normally it's 100 base move speed for any Hex unit. Now it's only 150, but only for Scythe of Vice, not for Rasta's Hex or Lion's Hex. And I think those were like the only nerfs that I saw to the heroes. So the big 5 got nerfed pretty significantly. Tier 1 picks were nerfed just slightly, and everything else was just pretty much buffs, buffs, buffs. Almost every hero not picked often in competitive got buffed. Even some that do get picked a lot get sub love. So there's minor touch-ups everywhere. I think just slight range increases, slight cooldown buffs, eggs on position of 4 to 5 heroes, such as THD, Keep It Alight. I forget. Abaddon also has one. They're pretty cool reworks though. They're pretty unique. For Abaddon, as you use your ultimate, it redirects 35% of all damage dealt to nearby allied heroes to Abaddon when active. So you actually have a better way of healing yourself, and that's within a 900 range. Keeper to Light gets an Axe buff. It's kind of like Darkness with Night Stalker. You get unobstructed vision during the day, and Illuminate actually heals allies for 75% of damage value. So that's pretty cool. You also have THD, also known as Twin-Headed Dragon / Jakiro. Aghanim Scepter Macropyre duration doubled from 7 to 14, and the Macropyre range increased from 1350 to 1800. 1800 is absolutely ridiculous range, and 14 seconds long. That pretty much is one of the best zoning tools ever, and does so much damage. Probably the most damaging spell in the game if you actually stand in it. Ags on Lena actually got buffed pretty significantly too. She now does universal damage, which means that it will go through magic immunity, and that ultimate hits it really, really hard. So I think it kind of puts it on par with Lion's ultimate. Lion's Ags upgrade was just a lot better before because it was like 20-second cooldown and it did AoE. Lena's just got a damage increase, so now it puts it in line for strength. Any other Ags buffs? Shadow Demon got a very minor one. Demonic Purge cooldown replaced with 2 charges that have a 40-second replenish time. That's kind of cool, but not terribly useful. Shadow Demon's usually starved for farm anyways. Wind Ranger, Focus Fire damage reduction decreased from 50, 40, 30 to 30, 15, 0, and no longer has special rules for procs. So I considered Wind Ranger's Ags upgrade one of the worst Ags upgrade in the game, and now it's not as terrible. I wouldn't put it as bad, but it's still not terribly great, since she doesn't have that high right-click damage potential anyways. And again, you can go through the changelog yourself. Nothing like really stood out to me except for a few of these. Yeah, it skipped one thing. So significant buffs, and by significant I mean buffs I think will make a hero competitively stable / viable, or prod strategists be like, hey, you should probably pick this hero because he's a lot stronger compared to a lot of other tier 1 picks right now. And this doesn't mean that I think that the buffs itself are large buffs. I just think they're small enough to push them from, like, let's say a 7 out of 10 to like an 8 out of 10. And when you're picking for a competitive line, you really want the 8, 9, 10 out of 10s instead of the 7, like, he's good, but there is a better option. Now these heroes might be better options than a lot of the current ones. So a lot of them are supports. Disruptor, Lion, and Lena got some buffs. Again, they're very minor, but I think they're good enough so that people will pick them a lot more. Kinetic Field cooldown reduced from 14 to 14, 13, 12, 11. Disruptor, I think, is one of the most underrated supports in the game right now, and although Kinetic Field is not that strong, it still just makes him that much more powerful. Kunkka gets buffed a lot. Torrent AoE increased from 215 to 225. X marks the spot, now lasts twice as long as allied heroes. Ghost Shift allied buff duration increased from 8 to 10 seconds. I actually think his ultimate is insane right now. At level 1, it's 400 damage, 60-second cooldown. It gives you the rum effect. It stuns. It's incredible. And it also adds a Ghost Ship AoE indicator for allies, so you can get some of that sweet, sweet rum So Kunkka actually used to be really, really popular. This was before he got like tons of buffs and buffs and buffs and buffs and buffs, and he keeps getting buffed. I think he will be picked very soon. Lion and Lena got buffed too. I already talked about the Lena Ags upgrade, and she got her attack range buff 650 to 670, but her attack animation is crap. Her physical damage is not that great in the early game, but it's still nice. And Hex cooldown on Lion reduced by 3 seconds at level 3, so 15 seconds to 12 seconds. That's pretty significant considering how strong it is, considering Scythe of Vice got nerfed too. So Lion Hex is extremely powerful now. Pugna is a hero that's been seeing some love. He was picked a lot in like the October to November phase and a little bit of December when Vici Gaming used him a lot, and the 5-man was just so prevalent. Decrepifying mana cost reduced from 100 to 60, and Nether Ward duration increased from 25 to 30, so I don't think it has that much downtime, if any, now. So prepare to see more 5-man, and combine that with the pipe buff, I can foresee some 5-man Dota happening competitive. Razor got buffed too. He needed a strength gain. Strength gain increased from 1.7 to 2.3, so pretty much the opposite of Terrorblade. Terrorblade minus 0.5 at all levels, Razor plus 0.6 at all levels. He desperately needed that because you always had to build him as HP, as a tank, because that's kind of what the hero is, kind of similar to Viper. Viper has, I think, a much better skill set, so he doesn't need the strength as badly as Razor. Unstable current slow duration slightly increased too. That's a little bit more minor. And Tidehunter Anchor Smash damage reduction increased from 40 to 60%. 60% damage reduction AoE is very significant, especially considering the cooldown on Anchor Smash in case you miss or whatever, or need to reapply it. Ancient Smash now works on Ancient Creeps. It used to work on Ancient Creeps before, and then it got nerfed because he was too powerful, and then now it's back again. So he's very viable offlane now, just stack Ancients, and he's a little bit better than Beastmaster and the other guys because he's a lot more tanky. He can get his ultimate off, it's AoE, and he's just a good frontline hero, and he also works pretty well with a Professor if you can actually get a ton of Ancient Sacks. So I like Tidehunter a lot. I think Tidehunter and Disruptor are probably the two most underrated heroes in competitive right now, and I think they should be picked a lot more, and hopefully this will prove that they should be in competitive Dota. And I think a lot of the reason why they aren't so popular, or that they weren't so popular, is because of the prevalence of nakes and mass BKBs, like think Gyrocopter, BKB every single game, Luna too. But now a lot of the heroes don't actually get BKBs that often. Think like Mask of Madness, Manta Luna, instead of Drums BKB, or Lifestealer. Like Lifestealer, he doesn't get picked that often at all anymore. So heroes like Disruptor and Tidehunter, who absolutely get smashed by BKBs, will probably make a comeback. And then last one is Faceless Void. Faceless Void I actually thought was already really strong. So he got a couple of agility buff. Base agility increased from 21 to 23, and turn rate improved from 0.5 to 1. So combine this with strong AoE heroes like THD, perhaps making a comeback, Kunkka even, a lot of damage to dump into Chronosphere, Void, Wombo combos is viable again. So buffs I hope will boost heroes to competitively viable / popular, but I don't actually think so. Or just buffs I like a lot. Axe, he got pseudo random chance on his spin, which makes it a lot more consistent and reliable, and it's cooldown based anyway, so I think that's a little bit better for him. THD, he got buffs all around, dual breath, liquid fire, everything got buffed a little bit, and he was a super popular support back in the day. LC, he's good. Tresden is good versus the big five, the Naga, Invoker, Ember, Lycan, and I forget what other one I just missed, and Phoenix and TB. She's good versus all 7 of those heroes. She's not in CM yet, but I think once she gets in there, especially combined with the buffs from this patch, she will be picked. She used to be like decent all around. Now she's like a little bit more than decent all around, so I think she's good enough. Lich, Chain Frost, bounces infinitely, infinitely now when you have Ags upgrade, which is kind of cool. Ogre, I think a little bit underrated. I like playing him a lot in pubs. Base armor increased by 1, cast animation improved just slightly, 0.56 to 0.45. He's just a nice tanky hero. Alliance used him a decent amount too, in conjunction with Lone Druids, Bear, Rabbit, and Bloodlust do stack. Bloodlust also doesn't get taken off when you cast BKB. And speaking of Magic Immunity, Omni Knight, Repel no longer removes Magic Immunity, which means you can GA and then Repel and not have to worry about taking off stuff like Guardian Angel, which is pretty significant, and he's kind of been eschewed for other defensive supports like Dazzle and Abaddon, who have just generally a lot better survivability and longer range. So maybe we'll see Omni back, maybe Omni Pudge. I like that a lot too. PA, she got a buff on Stifling Dagger, cooldown reduction from 8 to 6, and that's actually a significant source of her damage, considering it can now crit with coup de grace and it does pure damage. So again, Alliance, they like PA too. Loda likes playing that hero. Hopefully we'll see it a little bit more. Silencer, hero that Empire runs a lot, and it's been picked by a couple other teams too. Agility growth increased from 2.1 to 3.0, so that'll give him a little bit more armor, more attack speed, make him more formidable in the late game, especially with lots of intel and glaives. Curse of the Silent cooldown reduced. Final level 4, it has 8-second cooldown instead of 14. I believe it lasts like 6 or 8 seconds, so that's very, very high uptime on that, and you can just drain the crap out of people's mana. Silencer, Skywrath Mage, and Zeus, these are 3 heroes that I love to play all the time, so I'm glad all 3 of them got buffs. Skywrath, base movement speed increased from 315 to 325, and Conch Shot does a little bit more damage at all levels. Zeus, interesting change to his bolt. You don't get as much true sight range, you don't get as much flying vision range, but you can cast it on the ground now, and it'll affect the closest enemy hero in 250 range. So not only can you use this just as a scouting tool for wards or invis heroes, you can also use it when you don't have your ultimate up and you're going to get fogged. So that's actually really cool. Being an avid Zeus player, I think that will make life a lot easier. Also, cast point slightly improved on Arc Lightning too, so that'll make your mobility that much easier. Witch Doctor got buffed a little bit too. Maledict cooldown, significant reduction from 35 to 20. Death Ward does more damage because his attack time is decreased. And other buffs that I like a lot, Yule's got buffed, so it actually does damage when you land. So similar to Tornado on Invoker, you can't actually blink out of Yule's anymore. So that's very significant considering the popularity of Blink Dagger since it costs no mana. Manta actually got buffed, one of the strongest items in the game. You take off like target selection, so people have to retarget you instead of finding the real one if they cast something on you before. Atos cooldown improved from 12 to 10, so 4 seconds slow, 10 second duration, super long range. Atos is Atos though. Shadow Blade, duration increase a little bit, 12 to 14. I would have liked to see a cooldown decrease by 2 seconds instead of duration increase, but above the buffs, maybe that will start prodding people to get Shadow Blade instead of Blink. And Pipe of Insight. Pipe of Insight is a buff. Now provides Insight Aura, which grants 4 health regeneration to your nearby allies at the cost of reducing your own health regeneration by 3. So overall, a pretty big buff, and that will make 5-man pretty strong. We haven't seen too much like mech pipe pushes, especially with Tidehunter that used to be really popular like a year and a half ago, and might happen again. So overall, very good patch. I like the patch direction that all these are taking. Most of the strong heroes are getting nerfed just slightly, not enough to just push them completely out of the realm of competitive viability, but all the other heroes are bringing up to par too, so that will hopefully decrease the disparity between the really strong heroes and the crap tier heroes and just make competitive a lot more exciting. I actually think 6.80 is one of the best patches ever for Dota 2, and it looks like they keep getting better and better. So I like these changes. Good job, Ice Frog. And hope you guys enjoy the patch. It makes all pick a little bit more enjoyable and competitive as well. So enjoy, have fun. Hopefully it's out soon. Oh yeah, and I forgot to do my plug at the end. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I am Merlini of Merlini Dota. My YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all the same /Merlini Dota. Please subscribe if you like my videos. I know I haven't made that many, but that is on the agenda. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.